It will get the gout right out.
Okay, so now we know Jepson's Malort has coffee. Mark and I, it's not as bad as we expected it was going to be, but
And also, I didn't know that they made Malort for a time in Florida.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, they did.
See, I can't get
I know
anything
all the
past
history
you.
about
I know you
Malort
do.
because I've read the book on Malort.
Well,
but
you're my phone a
yes,
friend.
phone a friend. I got you here. Okay, so a lot of news this week because the governor had his state address. And one of the things everybody was really fixated on is the fact that he wants to do away with cell phones in the classroom, right?
Yep.
So this has become a topic of discussion. And Mark, I asked you about this earlier, and you told me you had mixed emotions.
I have mixed feelings. You know, it looks like the research, and we're going to find out more about this, the research shows it's a good thing from an educational standpoint and from a bullying standpoint, social media standpoint. But I'm always concerned about, what if there's an emergency, a safety issue?
Yeah.
And, that's the one caveat I have.
Well, I have to say, I, as a parent, that's something that concerns me too. But at the same time, I do want my children to be able to focus in the classroom, right?
Very important. That's why they're there.
That's why they're there. So we are going to talk to one of our favorite people on this topic, Dahlia Saper, always available for us. She's an attorney. She deals with social media and intellectual property. She is joining us now. Hi, Dahlia. Nice to see you on a Sunday.
Thank you for having me back.
Yeah, great to have you back. Okay, but before we get into the legalities of this all, this is really a really tough subject matter, isn't it? Because as Mark said, there's good and there's bad.
Look, it's actually a very bipartisan issue, right? As a parent myself, I have a 15-year-old and I have a 6-year-old, and I'm kind of on both spectrums of the high school child trying to battle me on phone and social media usage, and the young one just being introduced to video games and addictive platforms. So I think any parent understands the challenges that come with these digital devices. And so the legislature is understanding that there is a reason that we need to kind of address this, and even nationally and internationally, we're seeing this becoming a real topic that is supported by both. We don't know exactly how to solve it, but at least this is a step in the right direction.
Yeah, and I see the polls are definitely supporting it. 90% of the teachers are for it, and 60-some% of the parents are for it. Are there any other states that have already done this?
I'm not familiar. I think there are certainly policies. I'm not familiar with specific states that have passed these laws, but I know that we're seeing Australia has passed a law banning social media, period, for children under 16. So there's some version of this taking place in schools with various degrees of success. I think what we're really going to need to think about is how are these policies going to be implemented, because there is a really wide latitude for school districts to implement their own policies regarding what limiting device usage really entails.
Yeah, okay, so let's talk about that. So the governor's proposal requires the districts to adopt a policy, as you said, rather than imposing one uniform statewide. So legally, does that strengthen the state's position if this is challenged?
Yeah, so you know what they want is the disputes to go to the district level and not the state. The law has to be constitutional, has to be narrowly tailored to achieve its purpose, which in this case is the social and educational well-being of children. So what they're saying is, look, maybe a downstate school has different needs than a school in the city, and maybe a high school student needs some access to his or her phone versus a middle school student. So the law allows for that flexibility, and essentially that's what is getting the law to pass. If it was overly restrictive, I think it would face a lot more challenges.
Yeah, no, there's kind of a problem in that. And I would hear a lot of school administrators say, oh, here's something else, another mandate coming from Springfield that we now have to figure out, we now have to implement, and we have to be where the rubber meets the road in court challenges or any issues like that.
Right. So, I mean, there's questions about funding. Is there necessary training now that schools need to put into place? Who's going to pay for the caddies if you're going to go the route where the student keeps the phone in a pouch only to be unlocked with this another device? But I think at the end of the day, it's not a hard concept. Look, kids shouldn't be watching TV, if you want to use old language. They shouldn't be able to watch an entire show while they're learning math.
Right.
And we need to restrict access to kind of those real serious distractions when kids are literally actively being instructed.
Right.
Yeah. And as Mark just brought up, it's another issue for the teachers, for the district, for the principal. So let's say a teacher confiscates a phone and then something happens. Maybe it got damaged or it's lost, or maybe somebody says the teacher took the phone and somebody got private information. Is that a legitimate concern? Could somebody in the district, the teacher, maybe be held liable for that?
It's a great question. It's one that was ambiguous in prior versions of the bill, in which the teachers' unions and different teachers' associations were really concerned about. What kind of liability will I face as a teacher in trying to enforce this policy? And now the law specifically states that there is kind of an immunity for teachers who are following the district policy. So if a teacher goes rogue, they might expose themselves to litigation. But if they are instructing students to place their phones where they're supposed to and following policies, they are going to be immune under the act. Now, if a teacher takes the phone and slams it, that's that's clearly a violation of, I'm sure, any policy that any school might pass. And as to your second question regarding looking at the phone. So these laws are not allowing teachers to look at students' content and whatever they're doing on their phone. They're just confiscating the devices themselves.
When my kids were younger, and my kids are now in their 20s and believe it or not, in their 30s. I know that's hard.
It is hard to
I'm just kidding. When they started out school, they had a policy that they couldn't have phones in school, or it's definitely no phones in the classroom. Then at some point we seem to move away from that, and now we're moving back there again. It just seems like this has really been some shifting sands over the last years.
Yeah, I think, my daughter's school just implemented the caddy policy. She said, I forgot to put my phone in the caddy. I got deducted points on a test because,
wow.
there was suspicion that I was using the phone improperly. I think it's not a hard concept, and we don't need to complicate an issue that's not complicated. But the consistency in the application of whatever policy that is implemented is going to be the real way for people to be able to follow that policy and not dispute that policy.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
you say it's simple, it shouldn't be complicated, but as we all know, it could very well become complicated. Okay, you just said something. For those of us who don't have school-age children anymore because they've gotten a little bit older, even though you'd never know by looking at
you could hardly tell
the two of us that we would have children this age, right, Dahlia? This is why we have you back. This is why we have you back. Explain, you just mentioned the caddy. So let's talk about how some schools are currently dealing with the cell phone issue. Because your first thought is, when the kid comes in, they have to put their phones away. But that's not the case at your school. Tell me what you know about how this works.
Yeah, so I'll even give you a personal example. I recently went to a concert, and due to copyright concerns and other privacy concerns, the artist required every attendee to keep their phone, put it in a pouch, and which means you physically kept your phone. There was no chain of custody issues. They weren't going to lose your phone. And then you could only unlock the pouch when you left. Or if you really needed to use it, you would leave the concert, go to a designated area, press the little magnet button, and then get your phone. So what schools decide to implement is really up to them. Again, the law doesn't dictate the exact implementation of the policy. But in my daughter's school, I believe that they just put it in a caddy, kind of like a numbered little pouch that's at the front of the class, and they leave their phone there. So in the event that they need it or there is an emergency, the phone is accessible, just not distracting the student during active instruction.
Okay, what if something horrible happens? Because, that's another big issue is safety. A lot of people are like, well, look, I want my child to have a phone in case something goes wrong.
Right, and that is something that was also a concern in prior versions of the act, and parents, of course, want access to their children, sometimes too much access, but schools are the primary place to create communication policies, especially in the event of an emergency. And so, look, practically, if there is a really horrible situation happening, the phone is probably in the classroom, whether it's at the front of the classroom or it's in a pouch that can be deactivated fairly quickly. I think that will alleviate concerns, and I think the versions of the act and policies being implemented state that there is a readily available way to get to that phone if necessary. But look, you don't need to talk to your kid 20 times a day. I know my child tries, what's for dinner? Can you pick me up? Or these are all communications that are happening all day long. And I'm like, go to school. Why are you contacting me right now? So, can I go to someone's birthday party? These are questions that can be asked
after
at 3:30.
Yeah.
Sure.
Or, later on in the evening.
Unfortunately, that's not the way our society works anymore. We want immediate answers. Like I have
For
found
everything.
myself trying to put my phone away so I don't look at it until an hour after I wake up. And then I'm saying, you know, at this time at night, I'm trying not to look at it. We are all addicted, and it's hard to get away from that. So I can see why they're saying, you know, what's for dinner, Mom?
Yeah.
What's for dinner, Mom?
Okay, look how cozy her setting looks. That fireplace. Oh, we're
like
so
that.
jealous.
Yeah, we'll be over.
Yes, Dahlia,
Come on.
thank you. Thank you so much for
You're
your
so
expertise
welcome.
in breaking this down. I can see us talking again soon about this, because this is just the beginning of an issue I think we're going to be addressing and hearing.
Well,
a lot
hopefully the law is passed before the new school year. And so we're going to,
Yeah.
we'll, have you back in a few months. We'll see what
Yeah.
2026, 27
Yeah,
school
and
year
then,
looks like.
and I want to know what your kids' reactions to all of this is, because it'd be interesting to get the students' perspective. How old are your kids?
I have a high school sophomore and a kindergartner.
Oh, I'm sure the sophomore has some definite opinions, especially being your child.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, Dahlia, thank you so much. Great to see you. Enjoy
You
the
too.
rest of your
Bye,
weekend.
guys.
Now, think about this. We've just been talking about this subject for the last 7, 8, 9 minutes.
Right.
And it's something that I think most people broadly agree on. You shouldn't have your devices in your classroom. But yet, we still have these questions like, what would happen in this situation? And,
Right.
and also, I'm a little dubious about, the state pawning off responsibility to the school districts.
Right, I know. There's no easy solution to this, but I remember when cell phones kind of first became a thing, and my daughter had one, and she would text me during her school time, and I'd be like, "You should
hey,
be, yeah,
you're in
don't do that.
physics. Yeah.
Don't do that, right?
Gotta get that.
Okay, next we have a fun competition that is taking place this weekend, and it's a dance competition. And Mark and I were talking about this. I think, you've got the info there.
Yep.
And it's a dance competition, but what makes this so interesting is we are going to be talking to a dentist about this. And you're going to find out why the dentist is involved, but I think we're going to give her a minute to get all set up. But were you ever involved in dance in school?
Can I tell you a story?
Please
Okay.
do.
So in my high school, we had, blocks, 6 weeks blocks of different activities for PE. And at freshman, you were required to take 6 weeks of dance.
Okay.
Okay, that was fine and dandy. It was, you learned, polka and square dance and all that stuff.
I loved it.
So senior year, I had a minor football injury, and I had an excuse to get out of gym class.
Okay.
Well, when that minor football injury was fixed, I just never took the note back to get back into gym class. So I had almost the whole year off of PE. My aunt was a school nurse. So this was back in the day when Illinois required you to have 4 years of PE. There was no exceptions. And I see her coming down the hallway, and she's waving this note at me. You've got to go back for the last 6 weeks, senior year. And I think as a punishment, not by her, but by somebody, they put me back in a dance class with all of the freshmen. So I got to dance with all the freshman girls. They all had very sweaty hands. But I enjoyed it.
I bet they loved you.
No, I don't know. I think they thought I was like this big goof that, what's he doing there,
I love it. Okay, so speaking of dance then, that's what we're talking about here now. In fact, this is a dance competition that's taking place as we speak. And Dr. Insia Vergi is joining us now. She's a Chicago orthodontist. She is at that location. Thanks for joining us this morning. Nice to have you.
Hi, excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So this is Revolution Chicago. It's an event, I understand, for local dancers and their family. Kind of explain to everybody what it is all about.
Yeah, so this is Revolution Dance, and it's with Dance One company. And basically, they brought together hundreds of dancers over the whole weekend from all over the state. And these dancers are able to express their confidence and their athleticism through their dance over the weekend. It's brought together communities and families. It's just a way to support these dancers and allow them to express their individuality. And being a local Chicago orthodontist, I've loved being here this whole weekend and just being around all of the energy of the dancers and just being able to share my education and experience about oral health. And we also have Invisalign as a partner, and it's been such a great partnership because it's been so symbiotic, and it's just cultivated Invisalign's mission, which is creating confidence for teens and kids.
I love that.
Well, you mentioned symbiosis. Tell me about the symbiosis between dentures, or not braces, not dentures. I guess I'm
Invisalign.
at that age. Yeah, and dance. How does that fit together?
Yeah, so with dance, you know, we want our dancers to feel confident, and with Invisalign, that's what we try to, that's our mission. And as orthodontists, it's what we do every day. We try to bring confidence to our patients through their smiles. When they're on stage, they just feel excited and beaming, and you can feel that. And through, you know, using Invisalign as a modality for aligning teeth and just improving oral health, that's what improves their confidence.
Okay, so I understand you guys have an interactive activation. Can you walk us through that? Tell us how that works.
Yes, for sure. So we have these mirrors over here, which are AI-powered mirrors, and they display, you know, words of affirmation and empowerment. So when the dancers stand in front, they get to read these quotes and they feel excited and confident. And then we have a really fun installation behind me, which is our photo wall. So that's just, you know, something fun after their dance competition. They can take photos with their family and their friends and their team members. And then we have our family lounge over here, where we just talk about oral health, explain any questions that, you know, parents might be having about Invisalign. We have our empowerment wall, so you can see the stickers over there. So it's basically just dancers writing down words that, you know, help them get up and dance and what makes them feel confident and empowered. And then behind the wall, we have our oral health scanning suite, which is my personal favorite. So we do a 3D scan of their mouth, and then we're able to show them a simulation live of their before and after. So instantly you can see them beaming ear to ear with a smile of the confidence to just see what their smile is going to look like after.
Since we're talking about teeth this morning,
Yes.
You know, the Invisalign seems like a really great thing because it's kind of hidden. People really don't necessarily see it. How much more does Invisalign cost more than the old wire braces like I had when I was a kid?
So braces and Invisalign are the same cost. Yeah, they're the exact same price. So it's kind of what fits with your lifestyle. And what's amazing about Invisalign, especially for, you know, these dancers and these athletes and parents of the dancers and athletes, Invisalign really fits into your lifestyle. And with Invisalign, we offer virtual monitoring. So parents and patients are able to send us pictures weekly. So instead of having to come in as often as you would need to with braces, we just monitor weekly, and we can see you every 3 to 4 months, which makes it so much more convenient for parents who are busy with competitions and practices.
So I guess it depends on the person, but you know, Invisalign, you can pop them off and you can pop them off on. Do you have to wear them 24/7 or just when you sleep? How does that work?
Yeah, so Invisalign, you typically take it out when you're eating or drinking anything other than water. So we do suggest 18 to 22 hours of wear a day. And you are typically changing it every week. So sometimes, you know, it's okay if, you know, you lose a tray, because we'll just have you move forward. So it's really flexible with your lifestyle.
Okay, and I have to ask because I actually have been thinking about getting some myself.
Yeah.
So, coincidentally, just on my bottom teeth. And Mark asked you how much the cost was. You said it's about the same. So is there an average cost for somebody buying for their children or for themselves to get Invisalign?
Yeah, so it typically ranges based on the severity of the case. So we're looking at between $4,000 to $6,000 to $7,000. That's kind of the range we're looking at, just based on the severity. So sometimes if you've already had treatment and you have like minor tooth movement, because, you know, some of us don't wear our retainers, myself included, we have to go through treatment again. That's going to be closer to the lower end. But if you have a more comprehensive, complex case, we're looking at a more higher end range. And the one thing that I want to highlight is our new palatal expander, which is so much more comfortable for children. So it's really great to help us orthopedically correct their jaws while they're growing. And it's just a lot more comfortable than the traditional expander, which used to be so hard to like turn, and it was difficult for parents and patients.
Yeah, I remember back in the day, you know, you were called metal mouth.
Yeah, right.
And then you get in there and you had this wire that went around and you have these bands around the tooth, and the doctor would take a needle nose plier and kind of like do this medieval torture thing where they twisted.
Oh my
It was
God.
great fun growing up back in the day.
You're painting a great picture there, Mark.
Oh, it was fantastic. That was the way it used to be.
Okay, but how fun this interactive thing. I want one of those mirrors with the positive things in them, right?
Yeah.
You guys are just combining this dance competition with the oral health. If there's one message you could have for parents who are watching, or even, you know, young people who think, oh, maybe I should contemplate this, what would that be?
Yeah, so my one message would be, if you want more information, check out Invisalign.com and the Doctor Locator site and find a doctor in your Chicagoland area who's offering Invisalign. And just remember, it's an investment in you and your children.
There you go.
Very nice, Doctor. Thank you so much. Have fun at the dance competition. Hopefully it won't all be work for you and you can get out there and enjoy yourself as well. You take
Exactly.
care.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Okay, yeah. Did you wear braces at all?
Oh yeah, I've had them a couple of times. Yeah.
I've never,
Yeah.
my whole life, ever had braces. I always
Well,
had great
that's because
teeth.
you have the perfect
Well, I
smile.
did have good teeth, but now they're not. It's not so good anymore. I might actually have to do
Yeah.
that.
Well, what happens? Things move
Yes,
around a
they
little
do.
bit. You know, they move around.
Exactly, yeah, things. I need to stop moving around.
Yeah.
We'll be right back with some more fun right after this. Don't go away.
Great fun.
Are you drinking your Malort coffee?
Yes, I am. Yum.
Welcome back. Hope you're having a great Sunday
I
morning.
am having a great.
This is
You know,
fun.
my Sunday mornings are so improved.
Yes, well,
I get to hang out with you.
I get to hang out with you, even more fun. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, Mark knows this about me. I love taking the Chicago water taxi.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite things to do. And one of my favorite things to tell people is, did you know you can take the Chicago water taxi from the Michigan Avenue stop all the way to Chinatown and Ping Tong Park? And if you have not been to Ping Tong Memorial Park, it is so beautiful. And so this may not surprise you to hear that it's voted one of the most popular, right?
Yeah, parks.
So we wanted to know more about this because it's a great place to go visit, to live. Oh my gosh, you know, great places to eat. So joining us now to talk more about it is Brandon Cotton. He's the Chicago Park District Supervisor at Ping Tong Memorial Park, and Debbie Liu. She is the Ping Tong Memorial Park Advisory Council President. Good morning to you, both of you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Great.
Good morning.
Great to see you guys. Okay, so this has been named one of the best places to live. And I'm going to throw that question out here to either of you. You can choose who wants to answer, but why is that?
I think there is a lot of different types of amenities that people can go to. It's the riverfront. There's a great skyline view. There's a lot of programming that's in the park. And it is actually something that Chinatown residents have really fought for generations, since the only park that was serving Chinatown at that time, Hardin Square Park, was demolished and in the 60s to make way for the highways during the construction through the federal administration.
And I see that this is a old railroad yard. So to repurpose it from a railroad yard to something beautiful like this, what an incredible feat.
It is. It's amazing to see the transformation of this public space, and people continue to use it. And it is still an active rail to get into the park, but I think we are still thinking of ways to improve the safety around it as well.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so we've got to talk to you, Brandon, about things to do, because that's kind of your specialty here. Let's talk about the attractions. What do you guys have to offer out there that make it so attractive to so many people?
Well, as you mentioned already, we have the water taxi that picks you up right at Pingtown Park and takes you right to the Riverwalk. we actually have a partnership with a group called ChicagoLIVE, and they do kayak tours along the river as well. And they operate during the summer months between May, and they'll try to extend until early October if the weather allows, where patrons can come in the park and get a kayak and take a beautiful tour along the river and see the beautiful skyline from a river point of view. We also have a partnership with the Neon Paddle, who operates solely at night with the same type of tour aspect, but they have neon paddles along the river, and it's the only service of its kind in the city of Chicago, which is amazing. So I always advise people to come check that out as well. Um, we have a field house, which is not too far from the actual park. It's a couple blocks away. And in that field house, we have a pool, we have a fitness center, we have a gymnasium, and we have a skyline patio that people use for weddings. And where we offer many programs from early childhood. We have school age, teenage programming, and we also have senior programming where you can come take aquatic exercise in the pool. You can come do Tai Chi with our senior club. Any age, any group, we have a program for them at our field house. So I advise people to come check us out.
Very cool.
That's a big program, pretty comprehensive list.
Yes, yes. We worked hard to build those programs and to build these attractions up. So I think people, if you have any time, come check us out and you'll be pleased and find something that you're interested in.
One of my favorite memories, I think it was a couple of years ago, I took the water taxi from Union Station to Pingtong Park, and there was dragon boat races going on. Are you guys still doing that?
Yeah, every year there is a fundraiser to support Chinatown nonprofits, and there is a dragon boat race in the summertime, and dragon boats are competing on the Chicago River originally to catch the dragon flag, but now it's just to beat the other racers.
Wait a minute.
And I hear you say you catch dragonflies?
Dragonflies? Do tell.
Oh no, there was supposed to be a dragon flag, and you're supposed to catch it. Somebody was supposed to sit in front of the dragon head to catch it,
Gotcha.
but they no longer do that for safety reasons. But hopefully that tradition can come back.
But how fun. And I love what do you want people to know about the history? Because, we talked about all the things that it has to offer. Obviously, Chinatown is a great spot for anybody to go visit year round. But what's important to you for people to know about the history of this park?
Yeah, I think, as I mentioned, Hardin Square Park was the only park that was serving Chinatown residents for a really long time. And that was demolished in the 60s during the highway construction. And so because Chinatown is bounded by several highways, there was not a lot of green space. And I grew up having very little green space. And I'm now really excited to have this access to this park because my own son can take swimming lessons, which was not really afforded to me when I was growing up.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, it is beautiful. And if you get the chance to get out there, I highly recommend Mark as well.
Yep.
Yeah, we appreciate you guys joining us this morning. It's such an honor, I'm sure, for you to have that area voted as one of the most attractive places to live and highly sought after. So good things are happening in that area and glad to hear all about it.
Great, thank you.
Great to talk to
Absolutely,
both of you.
come visit us.
Yeah, as soon as the weather warms up, we ought to take the
I
ferry,
think
hop it
so.
on down there.
That would be so
We
much
used to
fun.
do a little
We used to
traveling
do-
back in the day.
Yes, Mark and I did. We took over the double-decker bus.
Yeah,
once and
right.
gave a tour.
We did our own tour.
We did our own
which
tour.
was great fun.
And we made up our own landmarks and
right.
our own rules. And we had such a blast. And we told people things that weren't true, but they enjoyed us.
Yeah, I think they were able to filter out the truth from the
Right?
BS.
You know
yeah.
what, though? That is one of my dreams someday, is to be like a docent for the
Yeah.
Chicago. I just
Wouldn't that
know
be
I would
cool?
love it so much.
Yeah, I think that's it's either a greeter at Walmart or doing that.
Yeah, I'd rather be in the water in the summer doing
Yeah,
that.
I'm
so.
with you there.
Okay, coming up, is it real? Are they really out there? We're going to find out because we're going to be talking to somebody who's an expert when it comes to UFOs or whatever that name is they now use to classify them. We'll be right back. Don't go away. You want to? Welcome back.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, we're doing a lot of stuff recently because it's kind of film season. So
It is.
SAG-AFTRA Awards coming up.
Are you up for
Oscars are
anything?
coming up. I'm not up for anything, and I haven't seen like hardly any of these movies this
Right.
year. Have you?
No.
Yeah.
No, I don't know why.
Yeah, I want to see a few. But we have our own film fun going on here in Chicago, and we are joined by Jay Davis and Omar Moore, the founders of Chicago Indie Con. They are joining us live. Good morning, gentlemen. How are you guys doing?
Good morning. How are you?
How you doing?
I just love that you guys have founded your own film festival. That is so cool.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, tell us how it got started.
Well, this is our actual third annual film festival, and it started because we wanted to create a platform for independent filmmakers because a lot of times the only chance they get is to go on the indie circuit and do film festivals. A lot of them are not local for Chicago, so we wanted to give a chance for our local artists to shine. And we also have films from all across the country, but for us, it was a big chance for us to make sure people from Chicago had a chance to get their films on display.
Are you film guys yourself? Are you independent filmmakers? Tell me about that.
Yes, yes.
Tell us
I am
about
a
that.
director. Jay is a writer. We work together. We have a couple of movies out on Tubi and other streaming platforms. Work primarily in horror and comedy, but we will do some drama. But I don't like to cry a lot, so tell jokes and kill people on screen.
Okay, well, tell us about the horror. What's that one about? Give us an idea. I love that you're on Tubi.
Yes, so we have a new horror anthology coming out on Tubi called Horrific, and that has lots of stuff. It deals with different genres of horror, so every episode is a different genre of horror. We also have right now currently on the horror thriller called EDYH. I don't want to spoil that for you, but you can check that out on Tubi right now. And we have our first season of our comedy show called Creative Hustle, which is on Tubi.
You got a whole season. That's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
You know, we hear a lot about indie films and indie filmmakers. And, you know, from me looking from the outside, it seems like you guys are so passionate that these are real passion projects. But is there, can you pay the bills making indie films?
They laugh.
Depending on how low your bills are.
Yeah, right.
If it's a phone bill, yeah, you got it. Mortgage, not so much.
I pay my cable bill, you know.
Well, I just appreciate the passion that
Yes.
you guys have and the love for this art form.
Yeah, and so this is year 3, you said. Tell me what difference does this make for people like you and other indie filmmakers who, as you said, don't often get the spotlight?
Well, this year we did a lot of panels. We have industry professionals coming in. So this gives them access to something they would normally have to go to like Hollywood or Atlanta to do. It gives them access to get one-on-one information on the do's and don'ts of filmmaking and the stuff they should be paying thousands of dollars to hear. They have it right here in front of them.
Well, you know, what are some of the don'ts? What if I want to go out and make? I've got this passion, whatever it is. I want to talk about this thing. I want to tell this story. What is it I shouldn't do?
Don't expect to pay your mortgage with the money from your movie.
It all comes back down to the dollars.
It's small things like copyright your script before
Yeah.
you send it to anyone.
Yeah.
Anything can be stolen. Copyright your script. Check in with the Illinois Tax Credit Office. You might be eligible for tax credits. See if your film's SAG eligible. You might want to check out the Indie Film SAG office to find out what you should do if you have SAG actors who want to be in your project.
And know your budget, know your limitations, know what you can and can't do. And get a team, get a good team. He and I have been working together, and I think that makes a huge difference. It's like not trying to do it all by yourself. You get a team,
Yeah. Always
give
have
a person trust and work with over and over.
Always have a good wingman. That's what I
Absolutely.
say, Sylvia.
That's what I say, Mark Strell, too. And I wonder, how tough is it, and if you can be, maybe say this to the person who's watching that's interested in trying to do their own film, how tough is it to get the funding for this? Where do you even begin to try to find somebody to back your product?
We self-back our product. It's hard to get a stranger to believe in your dreams before you have to believe in your dreams first.
Yeah, all of our films were self-funded, and then we took the funds from the previous film to build to the next film. So you build upon that, kind of grow your capital. But you have to be able to start somewhere. So if your budget is small, just start small. You can make a movie with a cell phone if you have to, but just get started and build from there.
You know, it's funny you mentioned the cell phone. I was going to ask you, like, technically, how do you shoot? Are you shooting on video? I've seen that there's actually major motion pictures that have been shot on iPhones before. What do you guys shoot on?
There's a couple of them out now that's on iPhones. We use professional grade cinema cameras and all that, but we had to get to that point.
Yeah.
We started with a DSLR camera. As we made more money and got more successful, we improved on our brand and on our products and all that. But it really is about the craft of the filmmaker more so than the equipment. But we are fortunate enough now to have, industry standard equipment.
Yes, you are right. You know what? I've always heard, if it's not on the page, it's not on the stage. And you got to tell good stories.
Yeah.
You got to tell good stories. Who can I shout that to?
Right?
I
There
should
you
shout
go.
that to all
I
people.
should shout it to the world.
You
And
got to
I
tell
actually,
good stories.
with that in mind, what was the first film that you guys did together? And tell us the story behind it.
The first one, we started off doing cartoons.
Right.
It was
Okay.
during COVID, and we couldn't necessarily film. So I started a cartoon series about this crazy events that happened in my life. And so I reached out to him. I'm like, hey man, he was doing audio and sound for. I'm like, hey, have you thought about doing animation? And he was like, yeah. So I sent him the script, and he literally scripted it, and I did the voiceover for the first cartoon series we did.
Oh, and
Yeah.
That's cool.
tell me about your character. What was you said crazy things that happened. You give me an example. I want a storyline here. I might fund you. Who knows?
Yeah, we might buy in.
So one was the first time me and my wife met. It was a weird story. I saw her at a play, and I waved at her, and she waved back. I stalked her on Facebook, and I sent her a message. I said, "Hey, how you doing?" She said, "Fine." I said, "Great play," and then I never spoke to her again for another year.
What?
And
You played hard to get, huh?
Fast forward, I happened to see her at a friend's pool party, and then I worked up the confidence to talk to her again, and we're married now. So
Oh.
that cartoon was done by Omar, and we played it at our wedding.
I
the
love
rest of it
that.
Too racy for the news right now, but that's the best. The best one. That's PG-13. The rest are a little,
Yeah.
not safe for TV.
Not okay. Well, we appreciate you honoring that. I will say this. I want to know why you waited a year to
Yeah.
reach back out to her. That's the real story. Maybe
I
there's a
did not
dating
know.
show to be done here.
It was the worst, maybe the worst, best decision I made. But and she still gives me. She's like, "You didn't talk to me for a year." Every time that story comes up, I'm like, "All right, you win."
Yeah, actually, that could be a great game show. Slow motion dating.
How to do it the right way and the wrong.
Yep.
Okay, what do you want people to know about your IndyCon as we wrap up here? How do they get a hold of you guys? How do they become part? Any final parting words you want to share?
Every year we start taking submissions via Film Freeway in September. They can follow the IndyCon page on Chicago IndyCon on Instagram or Facebook, and we keep that both pages updated with information. But we start accepting new films every September.
Wow,
And if
okay.
anyone's watching right now, they can come on out to Invite and get day 2 of IndyCon.
Oh,
Because it's
good.
still on stage.
Yeah.
I love your energy. I love your
wow.
spirit, and I wish you just all the best, my
Yeah.
friends.
And next time, come back and what do you got there?
I said, shout out to Monster for my energy right now.
Oh,
Yeah, right.
shout out to Malort for
Yeah.
ours. We have our Malort coffee.
Yeah, that's how
See?
we roll around
Yeah,
here.
you thought you had something on us, you
Yeah.
don't. Thanks, guys. Best of luck. I love that you're doing this.
Thank you
Thank
so
you so
much.
much.
Yeah,
Thanks
next
for
time
having
you're going to come back and they're going to show us some of their clips. I want to
Oh
see
yeah.
that, don't
Well,
you?
Jake will probably be,
Yeah,
they're
he'll be
talking
all
about
over
their
that.
film, right? Yeah.
Okay, here's the part we've been waiting for. Are we alone?
I was trying to do the UFO.
I know, I was
thing.
going to let
I'm
you do it. I was
going
gonna go
nowhere.
with it. Okay, so there's been a lot of news recently. President Trump has publicly called for UFO disclosure. And a lot of people are saying, is this for real? Or is this something we should be even messing around with? Should we be focusing on other things? So the man who's going to tell us why this needs to happen and what's been going on is Jon Stewart. He is a former Illinois gubernatorial candidate, a Chicago-based investigative producer. More importantly, he has spent the past 7 years researching UFOs. Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. I hate to be the buzzkill of your morning show today with really some dire news, and that's why I asked to come on. The fact that Donald Trump has authorized the release of all UFO-related material in possession of the United States government, or as I call it, the United States of America's cosmic Pandora's box, which this is going to be. And I just want to tell your viewers what I'll be talking about is very serious, because I think the ontological shock that is going to happen with America and the world when we start seeing not JFK era fuzzy documents, But when we start seeing high resolution video of potentially a non-human intelligent craft and beings of whatever species that they may have on film, being shown to the American, to the world, is going to cause a shock to our entire system, much to the like of 9/11. And I hate to be the downer today, but I really think it's important that from what I have learned for the past 7 years of falling down this rabbit hole, it's incumbent upon me to share it with your viewers.
Well, you give a dire warning, but some people might not look at that as a dire warning. They might look at it as, wow, we're finally getting to look behind the curtain. Now, so far, there have really been no smoking guns per se. So what makes you think that we're going to see this Pandora's box open up and see these incredible things?
Well, I don't think this is peculiar about my opinion here. I don't think that we are going to get the close encounters of the third kind video from the NSA or the DIA. Ladies and gentlemen, the Defense Intelligence Agency, in coordination with the CIA, kind of run the umbrella program of what they call the legacy program. That is all things extraterrestrial, and keeping this phenomenon at bay and away from public view. I think the President of the United States authorizing this release is going to be the trip flare in the air. And I have been told by people that are advising me and helped me for 7 years, members of the intelligence community, that there is going to be retired and members of the government who have these films in their vault, in their desk drawer, in their closet, that they are going to clandestinely release. That is what I feel we are going to see as the rollout of this information. And of course, you're probably going to see documents of the government authorizing all kinds of unscrupulous things, like malfeasance of our tax dollars, spending over $2-3 trillion, the potential, please listen to me, the potential murder of scientists and whistleblowers that were ready to come forward to tell the world, to tell the truth, that frankly, we are not alone. And the documentation and the information we have garnered from these beings since 1945 has said that they've been here for over 100,000 years. They have manipulated our DNA. So says a geneticist who say 40, 60,000 years ago, our DNA was manipulated. Who was the manipulator? And one last thing on this point, I think this is going to strengthen religion. I think when we find out that we're not alone, that we've been visited for millennia, that people are going to realize the Holy Bible is not a collection of allegories. It is a collection. It is a historical document. So I think this is, in a good way, this is going to be a good shock to the system for people that are spiritual and Catholics and believe in God. And I think it's also, you're right, Mark, it's going to open the curtain even wider to have a government that is transparent, which we have not had for many years.
Well, we are definitely looking forward to releases and see what actually happens. We're looking forward to that.
Yeah, thanks so much, John. We appreciate you taking the time on a Sunday morning to talk to us.
Thank you for having me. I
Okay,
appreciate
you take
it.
care. And we'll be right back. Okay, we are back from
Yeah, we are.
from UFOs to architecture.
Yep.
Okay,
Covered all
I believe Chicago is one. Well, I say this. I love my city.
Yeah.
I know I'm biased, but our architecture almost second to none.
You know, I think that people come here just to
They
see
do.
it.
Yep, they do because our architecture is pretty special. So why not be the center when you are an amazing architectural city of a film festival that focuses on architecture and design? Let's do this. What do you say?
Seems reasonable.
Okay, well, guess what? Kyle Bergman is the festival founder of the Architecture and Design Film Festival. He's joining us now. Hi, Kyle.
Good morning. How are you two?
Good to see you. We were just talking to somebody earlier about indie films, but this is all about architecture. Tell us, how long has this been around, and the focus, and what's it all about?
So the Architecture and Design Film Festival here in Chicago, well, it's been around for 17 years, actually. I started it. We're based in New York, but we take the festival to cities all around the U.S. and Canada and the world. We're in Los Angeles, Toronto, Vancouver, Mumbai, India, and other places. But the best place we do it is here in Chicago. Because Chicago
Yay.
is a city of film and architecture. There couldn't be a better place, and the audiences are always fantastic here.
You know, I love one of the most popular tours is the architectural tour right through the heart of Chicago. And I appreciate architecture. I appreciate good design. How well does that translate to telling the story by film as opposed to seeing the buildings in person?
Well, you know, so the festival is presented by the Chicago Architectural Center, who runs a lot of the boat tours. And I'm an architect, and the best way to see buildings is in person. However, the next best way, I think, is film, because we can tell the whole story, the beginning, the end, the backstory, the user story, the professional story, the non-professional. And the films we show, like the boat tour, they're meant for everyone. They all have a design story and a human story, and our audiences are a wide range of people. There's definitely design professionals, maybe about 50% of the audience, but 50% is just general public who is curious and interested in architecture. And this city is full of people who are curious and interested about architecture.
You are right about that. And as Mark said, people come to our city just to enjoy the architecture. Give me an example of a film that is going to be shown, and what's the film about?
Right. So just so you know, so this is the fourth day, the final day of the festival, and we have 3 films today. They're all at the Gene Siskel Film Center downtown. So one film at 3:15 is called The Space Architect. It's about a woman named Constance Adams, and she studied at Yale and Harvard, and her career was at NASA, and she was designing space capsules and ways to send people to Mars, and how NASA designs that. And in her 50s, unfortunately, she gets cancer, and she decides to have a filmmaker come and film her and talk about her life. And it sounds sad and depressing, and it's a little heavy, but it's also really fun and uplifting, because she realizes what she's been designing is a closed loop system for NASA, but really Earth is a closed loop system. So she's taken these small ideas of these design capsules and expanding it to a project called the Mothership Project, about looking at Earth as a closed loop system. And design happens at every scale, and she is a force of nature. Unfortunately, she passes away in the film, but you come out feeling inspired and energized about design and about our world that we all live in together.
I love that you're an architect. Tell me about what you're most proud of creating as an architect.
So as an architect, I've done a lot of residential design build architecture all over the world. I do parks, but what I love about the film festival is, as architects, we talk to ourselves all the time, but we're not so good as expanding that conversation to a wider audience. And so the goal of the festival is really to be able to bring people together from all walks of life and say, let's have this conversation. Let's up the design IQ. And as an architect, the best way we can do good work is having good clients and people who understand architecture and design. And so I think it feeds together, and it's really the films are great, and the conversations that happen before and after are just as important. And it's really fun and engaging.
You know, oftentimes, and you guys do this all over the world, and you've built all over the world, so you know better, but oftentimes you go to other countries and you see their architecture and you see the history and the years involved. You know, we're obviously a newer country, so our buildings in many cases aren't as old as theirs, but trying to find and encourage people to appreciate the architecture that we have sometimes may not always be an easy thing to try to do. And I'll give you an example. Is it Helmut Jahn that built the State of Illinois building, right?
Yes,
And and that was really a marvel. A lot of people said it wasn't functional, which is why things are changing. And I drive by there every day now, and I think, wow, it's kind of sad that they did away with this design that he created. And I'm just curious, from your perspective, how you feel about things like this, and why this film festival kind of helps people to appreciate.
Well, I think the Helmut Jahn building is interesting because it is changing, but it's also being preserved. And I think, I know Google is coming in there as one of the main tenants. And I think it's a great environmental move rather than tearing it down, redoing it. And they're also, they're doing a lot of things, like they're putting in special glass so birds won't fly into it. They're making it an environmental building. And, cities change, gentrification happens. And do they happen in a good way or a bad way? And I think I think that building is going to be an example of saying it's a positive change. And of course, we all love the things that we're used to, but then soon in 20 years, people are going to love the building the way it is now.
Yeah.
And I think it's the opportunity with architecture and design to keep growing and changing and evolving with, as we go forward.
You had the line of the day, up your design IQ. Right?
Up your design IQ.
Yeah, that's okay. So let me ask you, if that was your building, would you be okay with what they're doing to it?
I'm not sure what Helmut Jahn would have thought.
Yeah.
I'm sure he would have been very opinionated. He was a very opinionated man. I think there's progress happening there. I think it's going to be a better environmental building. I think it's going to be a good steward. And I think the city of Chicago is going to embrace it once it's all finished.
Well,
it's always tough.
The NFL Scouting Combine is a week away. Cap casualties on the Dolphins could be in play for the division, and the Max Crosby sweepstakes continue. Hello, everyone, and welcome into First and North. I'm Cassie Carlson. Joining me this week, we have the voice of the Lions, Dan Miller. We have Tim Van Voren from Fox Milwaukee and Pierre Nugent from Fox Minneapolis. We'll be getting you up to speed on all things going on in the NFC North. I want to start with the NFL ranking all 32 teams' rookie draft classes from last year now that the season's over. And here's how the NFC North fared. The Bears lead the list. They are ranked first overall with an A, and one of only two teams alongside the Browns to receive a solid A. Detroit ranks 16th with a B, Vikings 28th with a C, and rounding out the list, the Packers ranked last with a D+. Tim, your reaction to how the Packers rookie class was viewed?
Cassie, if they were grading at the moment, draft excitement at the moment, the Packers would have been A+. Remember, it was in Green Bay. Matthew Golden was there. Everybody was all excited. First wide receiver, first round in decades, and it just never really panned out. Golden wasn't a flop. He just didn't produce a whole lot. Second round pick, Anthony Belton, I think is getting undervalued a little bit. I like him as a contributor, but from then on down, guys just didn't play a whole lot. So when you're a draft and develop team, the Packers always stress the big gain is from year 1 to year 2. So they'll probably accept this grade with the hopes of being much higher after year 2.
Pierre, I'm sure you're not surprised, based off of the track record of Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, who was fired, that the Vikings didn't fare too well on this list either.
No, they really didn't. And at the same time, too, I think a lot of people need to remember that the Vikings didn't have a lot of draft capital in last year's draft after trades happening in the previous draft trying to get up and get J.J. McCarthy. So they were a little depleted in terms of draft capital. But they did have Donovan Jackson, who was their first-round pick at guard. I think he's had a pretty nice rookie season. Did miss a few games with some injury, but at the same time, too, it doesn't really surprise me, that this was a D grade for the Minnesota Vikings. However, I tend to reserve judgment for draft classes till we're about 3 years out. I think you need to give draft classes about 3 years to give them a fair evaluation. I know everybody is an instant gratification type of society, but I think everybody needs to give some of these young players a little bit of time to season before really grading them and judging them on their play. I'd give it about 2-3 seasons.
All right, Dan, you okay with a B? That's passing.
Yeah, I think that's about where the Lions are right now, and I think it's got the potential to certainly, as Pierre said, when you should really be looking at this, be regarded as a much better draft class. I think they really like the way Tyleik Williams came out at the end of the year. I think they're looking at him as one of the major guys that they'll have in the middle of that defensive line. Tate Ratledge is going to be a starter for a long time in the offensive line. Miles Frazier is going to have a chance to compete for a job this year, something he didn't really get to do last year because he wasn't active until the middle of the season because of an injury. He might end up at guard. He might end up at tackle. That's still up in the air a little bit. And then a couple of guys who really didn't get much in the way of playing time. Lovett, I think, has a chance to be a return guy and kind of a gadget player for them this year. He'll have to win the job. And then Hassanin, that's a project. We'll see how that comes along. And for the Lions, I think looking at it, Isaac Tesla is another guy that came on big time at the end of last year. I think they're looking at him as having a much bigger role this coming season. So I think whatever you want to say, B is fine, but I think the potential is there to where you can see a number of these guys being very significant contributors to this team.
Pierre, I know you said you talked about instant gratification. I feel like that's what we had here in Chicago with the Bears draft class and the first under Ben Johnson. And you can point to Colston Loveland, who people were like, did they take the right tight end or should they have taken Tyler Warren 10th overall? And then just seeing the way he played the second half of the season, leading all rookies receivers in receptions, receiving yards, and touchdowns. And it was him paired with Luther Burden, who was an early second-round pick, that really came on too. And I think it was the way Ben Johnson talked about his rookies that he trusted all of them by the end of the season. Kyle Monungai, a 7th-round pick, one of the last running backs taken in the draft. We knew that was a huge need for the Bears, and to see the way he came on later in the season to be a compliment to DeAndre Swift and lead the 3rd-ranked rushing offense in the league was part of the reason why not only do we have excitement about the years to come with this draft class, but also Ben Johnson and the influence that he'll have and who the Bears bring in when they talk about personnel. All right, ESPN's Bill Barnwell mocked up a bunch of possible trades and what they could look like. And Pierre, going back to you, knowing J.J. McCarthy had a hard time staying healthy and when he was, struggled while he was on the field, the Vikings could be on the lookout for a quarterback to bring some competition to the room. So he proposed the Vikings dipping back into Kyle Shanahan's backup, trading for Mac Jones and a 2027 3rd-round pick for a 26th second-rounder, conditional 27th 5th-rounder, and conditional 28th 3rd-rounder. Do you like it?
To be perfectly honest, I think it's a little too rich for my blood. However, I do think Mac Jones would be an interesting fit here in Minnesota. But the reason why I say I think it's a little too rich for my blood is because he's going to be on the last year of his contract. Now, if he is coming into Minnesota and he plays very, very well, now you're left with the decision between J.J. McCarthy and Mac Jones.